In the quiet village of Banza, where the river flowed like liquid glass under the golden sun, there lived a young man named Kobe. The villagers often described Kobe as a man with hands of gold but a pocket of pebbles. He was a carpenter by trade, crafting sturdy furniture and delicate carvings that adorned the homes of his neighbors. Yet, despite his talent, Kobe's earnings barely stretched far enough to buy food for himself and his ailing mother, Naima. Naima was a kind and wise woman who had raised Kobe alone after his father passed away when Kobe was just a boy. Though her body had grown frail over the years, her spirit remained unbroken. She spent her days weaving baskets while sitting by the window of their small, wooden hut, a smile on her face despite the creaks of the rotting floorboards beneath her chair. Kobe, she would say often, our happiness isn't measured by the coins in our hands but by the love we hold in our hearts. Be patient, my son. Good things come to those who wait. Kobe would nod, forcing a smile, but deep down, he was restless. His mother's words were a comfort, but they did little to ease the weight on his shoulders. Naima's health was worsening, and the medicines she needed were expensive. Their home was falling apart, and each storm that rolled through the village threatened to tear it down completely. Each morning, Kobe rose with the sun, his calloused hands already at work before most of the village stirred. He carved chairs, tables, and toys with precision and care, pouring his soul into every piece he made. The villagers admired his skill and praised his work, but their pockets, too, were shallow. Kobe's wages came in the form of small bags of grain or a few copper coins, never enough to save for the future he dreamed of, a future where his mother could live in comfort and he could finally rest. One particular morning, as Kobe set off to deliver a repaired chair to the village chief, Obio, he couldn't help but admire the chief's grand home. It stood at the center of the village, a towering structure with golden-framed windows and a tiled roof that gleamed in the sunlight. Obio was a man of mystery. His wealth seemed limitless, and his lavish feasts were the talk of the village. Yet, no one knew exactly how he had come by his riches. Some whispered that he had inherited a fortune, others believed he had made a pact with the gods. As Kobe entered the chief's grand hall, carrying the repaired chair on his back, he was struck by the opulence around him. The walls were adorned with tapestries depicting battles and legends, and the floor was covered in plush rugs imported from distant lands. A table laden with fruits, meats, and golden goblets stood in the center of the room. Kobe, my boy. Chief Obio greeted him warmly, though there was a slyness in his smile. Oh, the chair looks magnificent. You have a gift, truly. Come, sit with me for a moment. Kobe hesitated. The chief was a powerful man, and Kobe rarely felt comfortable in his presence. But he was too polite to refuse. I appreciate the offer, chief, but I must return to my mother soon, Kobe said. Nonsense, Obio replied, his voice firm but friendly. You work too hard. Sit, and share a meal with me. It's not every day I get to enjoy the company of an artist. Reluctantly, Kobe set the chair down and took a seat at the table. He tried to focus on the food in front of him, but his eyes kept drifting to the golden ornaments that adorned the room. The chief noticed Kobe's gaze and chuckled. Impressive, isn't it? Obio said, gesturing to the riches around them. This, my boy, is what life can be if you dare to dream beyond your station. Kobe looked down, embarrassed. I do dream, chief, he said softly. But dreams alone cannot fix a leaky roof or buy medicine for my mother. Obio leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Then perhaps you're dreaming of the wrong things. Tell me, Kobe, have you ever heard of the Golden Shrine? Kobe frowned. The Golden Shrine. I've heard villagers speak of it, but it's just a tale for children, isn't it? The chief's eyes glinted with intrigue. Oh, it is very real, he said. Hidden deep in the forest, it is a place where the gods themselves reside. Those who find it and complete the ritual are rewarded with wealth beyond their wildest dreams. It's how I came to possess all of this. Kobe's heart raced. Could it be true? Could the answer to his prayers be hidden in the forest? He leaned closer, his curiosity overpowering his caution. What kind of ritual? He asked. Obio smiled, leaning back in his chair. Oh, that is the question, isn't it? The ritual requires a trade. No bloodshed, but it must be something you hold dear. The gods are generous, but they are not without their price. Kobe sat in silence, the weight of Obio's words pressing down on him. A part of him wanted to dismiss the story as a fabrication, a trick to lure him into some scheme. But another part, the part that longed for a better life, couldn't help but wonder, what if it was true? As Kobe rose to leave, Obio placed a hand on his shoulder. Think about it, my boy, the chief said, his tone almost fatherly. Greatness doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who dare. Kobe left the chief's home that day with more questions than answers. The tale of the golden shrine consumed his thoughts, its promise of riches clashing with his mother's wisdom. As he returned to their humble home and saw her smiling despite her frailty, he felt a pang of guilt. But as the wind howled through the cracks in their walls that night, Kobe made a silent vow to himself. If the shrine was real, if there was even the slightest chance it could save his mother and give them the life they deserved, he would find it. Little did Kobe know, the path he was about to take would lead him to riches, but at a cost far greater than he could imagine. The morning sun barely crested the horizon as Kobe stood at the edge of the forest. A cool mist clung to the air, weaving through the towering trees like ghostly tendrils. The path ahead was narrow, barely visible, and lined with thorns and shadows that seemed to shift in the dim light. Kobe clutched a small satchel, containing little more than bread, water, and a carving knife. He had told his mother he was going to collect wood for a new project, avoiding her gaze as he spoke. He couldn't bear to tell her the truth, not yet. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the forest. The villagers often spoke of the forest as a place of mystery. Some claimed it was enchanted, while others said it was cursed. Kobe had heard stories of strange lights, whispers in the wind, and travelers who entered but never returned. Yet, he pressed on, driven by the hope of a better life for his mother. As he walked deeper into the forest, the air grew colder and the light dimmer. The trees seemed to close in around him, their twisted branches forming a canopy that blocked out the sun. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig made his heart race. Kobe. He froze. The voice was faint, like a breeze brushing past his ear. He turned quickly, but there was no one there. Kobe. It came again, louder this time, and unmistakably his name. He gripped the hilt of his carving knife, his pulse pounding in his ears. "Who's there?" he called, his voice trembling. Silence. Then, a light appeared in the distance, a faint golden glow. It pulsed gently, beckoning him forward. Kobe hesitated, but the promise of the golden shrine filled his mind. Gathering his courage, he followed the light. The glow led him to a clearing surrounded by towering stones carved with ancient symbols. At the center stood the shrine, its golden surface shimmering as though it were alive. Kobe's breath caught in his throat. The tales were true. As he stepped closer, the air grew warmer, and the faint hum of energy filled the clearing. Suddenly, the light of the shrine brightened, and a figure emerged, a glowing, humanoid form with eyes like burning embers. The guardian spirit of the shrine. "Welcome, Kobe," the spirit said, its voice resonating like the toll of a distant bell. "You have come seeking wealth." Kobe nodded, his voice faltering. "Yes. I needed to take care of my mother." The spirit tilted its head, studying him. "Wealth is a burden as much as it is a gift. It demands a price, a piece of yourself that you hold dear. What will you offer in exchange?" Kobe hesitated. He thought of his mother, his hands tightening around the strap of his satchel. "I cannot give my mother," he said firmly. "And I cannot give my craft, it's all I have." The spirit's eyes glimmered with amusement. "Then what will you offer, Kobe?" He thought hard. What could he part with that would not harm his mother or his ability to provide for her? Then it struck him, his shadow. It was always with him but seemed so inconsequential. Surely, he could live without it. "My shadow," he said, his voice steady. "You can have my shadow." The spirit paused, then nodded. "A clever choice. But be warned, Kobe, the things we give away often hold more value than we realize." Before Kobe could reconsider, the spirit raised a glowing hand. A searing light engulfed him, and he felt a strange weight lift from his body. He stumbled, catching himself on one of the stones. As the light faded, he looked down and saw nothing, his shadow was gone. The spirit gestured to the shrine, and a golden chest appeared. "Your trade is complete. Take this, and may it serve you well." Kobe opened the chest and gasped. Inside were gold coins, more than he had ever dreamed of. He felt a surge of relief and excitement. "Thank you," he said, bowing to the spirit. "I will use this wealth wisely." The spirit's voice echoed as it began to fade. "Remember, Kobe, every gift carries its own weight. Use it wisely, or it may crush you." Kobe left the forest with the chest in hand, his heart soaring. The villagers' warnings of the cursed forest and its dangers seemed laughable now. He had found the golden shrine, and with it, the answer to his prayers. But as he stepped back into the sunlight, something felt wrong. The golden light of the chest gleamed brightly, but the shadows of the trees fell unnaturally across his body, bending and twisting as though avoiding him. He ignored it, brushing off the unease as fatigue. When he reached the village, the people stared at him in awe and confusion. Some pointed, others whispered, their eyes lingering on the strange absence beneath his feet. "Kobe," one villager asked, "where is your shadow?" Kobe forced a smile, holding the chest up for all to see. "I traded it for this. Look, wealth enough to change our lives." The villagers murmured among themselves, their expressions a mix of admiration and unease. Kobe ignored them and hurried home, eager to show his mother the treasure he had brought. For now, he was a hero. But the weight of his choice was only beginning to make itself known. Kobe's mother was sitting by the window, weaving a basket, when he burst through the door. The light in her eyes brightened at the sight of her son, but it quickly turned to confusion as she noticed the golden chest he carried. "Kobe," she said softly, setting the basket aside. "What is this?" Kobe placed the chest on the table and opened it, the gold inside catching the sunlight and bathing the room in a warm glow. "It's for us, Mother," he said, his voice brimming with excitement. "No more leaky roof. No more empty cupboards. We'll have a better life now." Naima stared at the gold, her hands trembling as she reached out to touch it. "Where did you get this?" she asked, her tone cautious. Kobe hesitated, then explained. He told her about the golden shrine, the guardian spirit, and the trade he had made. As he spoke, his mother's face fell, her joy replaced by a deep worry. "You traded your shadow?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Kobe said, smiling despite her concern. "It's just a shadow. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we are finally free from poverty." Naima shook her head, her brow furrowed. "Kobe, shadows are not just things that follow us. They are part of who we are. You've given away something precious, something you may not understand." Kobe brushed off her words, eager to show her what the gold could do. He set to work immediately, hiring workers to repair their home, buy fine furniture, and fill their pantry with the best food the village market had to offer. The transformation was immediate. Their once crumbling hut became the grandest house in the village, its walls painted bright and adorned with intricate carvings. Kobe's mother now had soft cushions to sit on and warm blankets to wrap herself in. The villagers marveled at the change, some congratulating Kobe while others whispered behind his back. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, Kobe began to notice something strange. The first sign was the light. No matter where he stood, the sun seemed harsher, glaring at him from every angle. Shadows that should have provided relief from the heat bent away from him, leaving him exposed. The second sign was the unease in the villagers. At first, they praised him for his newfound wealth, but soon their gazes turned wary. Children who once ran to greet him now avoided him, their eyes wide with fear. "Kobe," one of the villagers asked him one day, "how did you get so rich overnight? And why don't you have a shadow?" Kobe laughed nervously, waving the question away. "The gods have blessed me. That's all you need to know." But the villagers' expression remained skeptical, and the whispers grew louder. At home, Kobe's mother watched him closely. Though their lives had improved materially, she saw a change in her son. He smiled less and seemed distracted, as if something weighed heavily on him. One evening, as they sat down to dinner, she finally spoke. "Kobe, tell me the truth. Are you happy?" Kobe looked up from his plate, startled by the question. "Of course I'm happy, Mother. Look at all we have now." Naima shook her head. "You had joy in your heart when we had nothing. Now, with all this wealth, you seem more troubled than ever." Kobe wanted to argue, but her words struck a chord. She was right. Despite the gold, the grand house, and the admiration of some villagers, he felt empty. His work, which once brought him pride, now felt meaningless. Even the laughter of his mother, which used to fill him with warmth, seemed distant. And then there were the nightmares. Every night, Kobe dreamed of the forest. In his dreams, the trees whispered his name, their branches reaching for him like skeletal hands. He saw the spirit of the shrine, its burning eyes staring into his soul, and heard its words echoing in his mind. "What you give away often holds more value than you realize." One night, the dreams became unbearable. Kobe woke in a cold sweat, the room spinning around him. He stumbled outside, gasping for air, and looked up at the sky. The moon hung high, its light casting shadows across the ground, but not on him. He stared at his feet, where his shadow should have been, and for the first time, he felt its absence like a missing limb. "I've made a mistake," he whispered to himself, the weight of his choice pressing down on him like the very gold he had sought. The next morning, Kobe told his mother, "I need to go back to the shrine." Naima's eyes widened in alarm. "Kobe, no. You've already given it your shadow. What more could it take from you?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But I can't live like this. The gold isn't worth it. I need my shadow back." His mother sighed, her worry etched into her face. "Then promise me, Kobe, promise me you'll be careful." "I promise," he said, though the uncertainty in his voice betrayed his fear. With that, Kobe prepared to return to the forest, the very place where his journey had begun. This time, he wasn't seeking wealth. He was seeking himself. The forest loomed before Kobe once more, its dark canopy blotting out the midday sun. This time, the trees seemed to whisper louder, their voices more insistent, as though the forest itself knew why he had returned. Kobe gripped the satchel slung across his back, its weight light compared to the heaviness in his heart. As he stepped onto the narrow path, the air grew colder. Shadows twisted unnaturally, bending away from him like frightened animals. Each step felt heavier than the last, but Kobe pushed forward. He could feel the forest watching him, judging him. Kobe. The voice came again, faint but unmistakable. He froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the carving knife at his belt. Kobe, why have you returned? He spun around, his eyes scanning the darkness. The golden light appeared once more in the distance, pulsing like a heartbeat. Swallowing his fear, he followed it, each step echoing in the unnatural silence. The clearing appeared as it had before, the stone standing tall and the golden shrine gleaming with an otherworldly light. The spirit emerged from the shrine, its form glowing and shifting like fire. Kobe, it said, its voice deep and resonant. You have returned? Why? Kobe took a deep breath, his voice trembling. I made a mistake. The wealth you gave me, it has brought me nothing but emptiness. I want my shadow back. I want to be whole again. The spirit tilted its head, its ember-like eyes narrowing. You made a choice. The wealth you sought came at the price you offered. Now, you wish to undo that choice. Yes, Kobe said, his desperation spilling out. I give back the gold, all of it. Take it and leave me with nothing if you must, but please, return my shadow. The spirit was silent for a moment, its form flickering like a dying flame. Then, it spoke, its tone grave. The gold is meaningless to me. The price to undo what has been done is far greater than the one you paid. Are you prepared for that? Kobe's heart sank. What must I do? The spirit raised a glowing hand, and the clearing seemed to warp around them. The stones pulsed with light, and the ground beneath Kobe's feet grew warm. To regain your shadow, the spirit said, you must offer me your essence, the part of you that desires, that dreams, that creates. Without it, you will live, but your life will be empty. You will become a shell, neither whole nor broken, but lost in between. Do you still wish to proceed? Kobe hesitated, his mind racing. He thought of his mother, of her smile and the hope in her eyes when she saw their new home. He thought of the villagers, the way they looked at him with suspicion and fear. But most of all, he thought of the emptiness that had consumed him since the day he left the forest. I can't live like this anymore, he said, his voice firm despite the fear in his chest. Do what you must. The spirit extended its hand, and a wave of light engulfed Kobe. It felt as though his very soul was being unraveled, threads of his being pulled away and woven into the air around him. He fell to his knees, gasping as a cold emptiness filled the space where his dreams and desires once resided. When the light faded, Kobe looked down and saw his shadow stretching out before him, whole and solid. Relief flooded him, but it was tempered by the strange numbness that now clouded his mind. The spirit's voice echoed once more. You are free, Kobe. Your shadow is returned, and the bargain is complete. But remember, every choice carries a weight, and you will bear this one for the rest of your days. Kobe stumbled out of the forest, the world around him feeling distant and muted. When he reached the village, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ground. For the first time in weeks, his own shadow stretched beside him, a comforting presence that he hadn't realized he had missed so deeply. The villagers noticed his return and gathered around him, their eyes wide with curiosity and concern. Kobe, one of them asked, what happened to you? Kobe smiled faintly, the expression not quite reaching his eyes. I made things right, he said simply. He returned home to find his mother waiting for him. Her relief was evident as she ran to embrace him, her arms wrapping tightly around his weary frame. You got your shadow back, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I did, Kobe replied, his voice hollow. But I lost something else. Naima pulled back, her hands on his face. What do you mean? I can't explain it, he said. I don't feel the same. It's as if a part of me is missing. Naima's heart broke at the emptiness in her son's eyes, but she held him close, whispering words of comfort. In the days that followed, Kobe returned the gold he had left, distributing it to the villagers who needed it most. He resumed his work as a carpenter, his hands still skilled but his heart no longer in it. Though he was whole in body, the price he had paid lingered within him, a constant reminder of the dangers of greed and the value of the things we often take for granted. Kobe's story spread throughout the village, becoming a cautionary tale for generations to come. And though he lived a quiet life from that day forward, his shadow always by his side, he carried the weight of his choices as a reminder of the cost of seeking too much. Life in the village slowly returned to normal, but for Kobe, normal was no longer the same. He resumed his carpentry work, repairing broken tables and crafting fine chairs, but his hands moved mechanically, as if guided by memory rather than passion. The joy he once felt in creating had been replaced by a quiet emptiness. Though his mother tried to fill their home with warmth and laughter, Kobe often found himself staring out the window, lost in thought. The villagers, too, noticed the change in him. His once bright smile was now subdued, and his eyes, though kind, seemed distant. Still, Kobe worked tirelessly, using his earnings to support not just his mother but also the villagers who had less. He gave freely, refusing to hoard the wealth he once sought so desperately. But despite his generosity, a question lingered in the minds of those around him: what had Kobe truly lost in the forest? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Kobe sat outside his home, watching the shadows stretch long and thin across the village. His own shadow mirrored him, moving as he did, its form dark and familiar. For a moment, he spoke aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you hear me?" To his surprise, the shadow seemed to ripple, as if in response. Kobe leaned forward, his heart racing. "If you can hear me, do you regret coming back?" There was no answer, of course. The shadow remained silent, a silent reminder of the choices he had made. That night, Kobe had a dream. He stood in the clearing of the forest once more, the stones glowing faintly in the moonlight. The spirit appeared before him, its fiery eyes fixed on him with an intensity that made him shiver. "Kobe," it said, its voice like the rustle of leaves in a storm. "You have your shadow, yet you remain unfulfilled. Why?" Kobe hesitated, then spoke. "I gave you my dreams, my desires. Without them, I feel hollow. I thought the shadow would make me whole again, but it didn't." The spirit's eyes softened, its form flickering like a dying flame. "It is not your shadow that made you whole, nor your desires that gave you purpose. It was the way you used them. You longed for wealth to care for your mother and your village. That longing was your strength. But now, you have forgotten how to use what remains." Kobe frowned. "What do you mean?" "I have nothing left but my work." The spirit's voice grew gentle. "Then let your work speak. Create not for riches, but to rebuild what was lost. Purpose comes not from what you have, but from what you give." When Kobe awoke, the words of the spirit echoed in his mind. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of something he thought he had lost: curiosity. He rose early that morning and went to his workshop. Instead of crafting furniture for profit, Kobe began working on something new, a gift for the village. Day after day, he toiled, the rhythmic sound of his tools filling the air. The villagers watched in wonder as he built, but Kobe remained tight-lipped about what he was creating. Finally, after weeks of effort, Kobe unveiled his work. In the center of the village square stood a magnificent wooden sculpture, a tree, its branches spreading wide as if to embrace the village. Each branch was adorned with carvings of the villagers' faces, their expressions joyful and full of life. At the base of the tree, Kobe had carved a small plaque. "True wealth is found in what we share." The villagers gathered around the sculpture, their faces alight with wonder. Children laughed as they found their likenesses among the branches, and elders marveled at the intricate details. One villager approached Kobe, tears in her eyes. "You've given us something beautiful, Kobe. This is better than any treasure." Kobe smiled, a real, genuine smile, and for the first time, he felt a sense of peace. From that day forward, Kobe's life took on new meaning. He continued his work as a carpenter, but he no longer chased wealth or feared what he had lost. Instead, he focused on using his skills to bring joy and comfort to others. His shadow remained by his side, a quiet reminder of the lessons he had learned. Though the emptiness never completely disappeared, it no longer defined him. He had found a new purpose, one rooted in love and generosity, and that was enough. Years later, when Kobe's story was told around village fires, it became a tale not just of caution but of hope. The villagers spoke of the young carpenter who lost and regained himself, who learned that true wealth lies not in gold but in the bonds we build with others. And as Kobe grew older, he often sat by the tree in the village square, watching the shadows dance beneath its branches. In those quiet moments, he would smile, knowing that though he had paid a great price, he had found something far greater in return. What would you have done in Kobe's place? Would you have made the same choices, or would you have chosen differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe for more tales that inspire and teach. Thank you for watching.